Also, very important, when you're editing, you can always adjust the size of the timeline. And so in the process of editing, I noticed we call it a flash frame, which means it's not a clean edit. And so when you expand the timeline, you see that there's a flash, I mean, there's a break it in within the edit. So you have to be very mindful of that. So basically what you can do, one of the great things about nonlinear editing. Highlight this clip, slide it to the left, and it reconnects. And so that mistake has been corrected. Also, when editing, you want to make sure that you have multiple shots. That's why when you're out in the field videotaping, you want to get a wide shot, medium shots, and close-up shot. So you can change the perspective. You notice here a wide, medium shot to a wide shot, a close-up shot, and a medium wide, but definitely not the same shot. So from here, that's 25 seconds of a VO, but now we want to use an interview. Double click. You can scroll through, but we're going to just find, for the sake of tutorial, we're just going to hit play and see what's being stated, and then look to determine a soundbite.
University. I'm from Idaho originally. Did I say that already? We've implemented.
Okay, so we're going to start here.
Yeah, so
What I'm doing here, I'm utilizing on the keyboard, this keypad here, the arrows, and I'm going back. This is getting me a clean edit.
Yeah, so the research that.
We're going to start with the research. Select I for endpoint. We're going to scroll back. Sometimes you have to go back and forth to get a clean.
And I do research as well in geotechnical engineering.
Talk about research and give more what type of research is it?
Yeah, so
we can go with so just for a clean edit. Select I point, the I for endpoint.
So the research that I do in geotechnical engineering is slope stability on highway slopes made out of Yazoo clay. So I've been working with Dr. Khan, my advisor, for the past 3 years now.
And so with 3 years now, the outpoint, select O, and then from here, again, either or, we're going to go with overwrite. And now you're going to notice as well, the B-roll, and now it's SOT.
The research that I do in geotechnical engineering is slope stability on highway slopes made out of Yazoo clay. So I've been working with Dr. Khan, my advisor, for the past 3 years now.
Okay, that's one sound bite. Now we're going to go with the second sound bite. Double click. We're going to listen to what she has to say. Same thing. I feel like it's the endpoint. Select I. To the person I am today. Outpoint. And now we're going to go with insert. Before we did overwrite. Now we insert. And so we're at 40 seconds. So that's basically editing in terms of a VO and then utilizing sound on tape. Also, it's important to know that when you're doing video, especially audio, you want to make sure that the sound is balanced. And if you notice, when I hit play, to the far right, we see both the natural sound and then the microphone, which is audio 2. But we want it to be balanced. So we just want to hear the main audio. So what we do, we select the clip, the audio clip, come over to your left panel and select effects. We want to affect the audio. We come to audio effects. We're going to scroll down to fill left with right. Balance, double click. And now we have balanced audio.
3 years now.
And so the same thing here. We want to do the same thing. We're going to double click. And we're going to select, for this here, we're going to go with right to left. because during the recording, the mic signal was changed. So again, whatever the clean audio is located, double click either left or right. Normally it's left to right, but sometimes you have to go right to left to get balanced audio. And now you have stereo sound once it's outputted out.
3 years now.
I feel like the program has really shaped me to be the person I am today.
And so we have that in place. And so now we want to go back and conclude it with another B-roll shot. So we're going to go there, and we're just going to double click this particular clip here. Like so, you always take the toggle and scroll back and forth and determine exactly where you want to begin. So we're going to begin here. Select I. And O. And you can also do it like this as well. You can also, as before, you can use overwrite or insert, or you can take it as such, drag, click here within the bin, the window, drag and drop. Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. And you can also, if you want, which is a good technique when you're editing, you want to make sure that even on your natural sound, that you can make sure it's balanced. So one technique you can do, you can highlight all your clips at once, the audio clips, come back to effects, and select fill right with left. And now both all the audio is balanced, even on the last clip here. Double click, and now you have balanced audio. Let's see. Let's give it a second time. Double click, and we should have balanced audio. It is. Now we have balanced audio. And so basically, that's just an example of just basic editing. We're going to come out of here, go back to project so we can see our clips. As I say, this is your bin where your clips come into play. You double click what you want to go with. You double click here. This is your preview monitor, and it's highlighted with a blue bin. This is your output monitor. This is basically what you're editing to be exported out. Here's the timeline where the editing take place. And like we stated before, it's important that you make sure that video 1 is highlighted on both, because if they're not, you will not be able to bring video down until the timeline from the beginning. And your 0 running time, and it include at 44 seconds. Just basic editing in terms of bringing in your video files from your source with your SD card or wherever your source is located. Select that, input, and then it comes into the bin. And from there, you determine exactly the order that you want. And that's the beauty of editing. You can shoot it in one particular order and edit it in a totally different. So for a purpose of just basic editing, you're done with the video editing, and now it's time to export. So it's very important. You know how to import, but how do I export my video? Well, this is the process. Make sure you export it from the timeline, because wherever you highlight, that's what's going to be exported. Either from here, the preview monitor, even from your bin. So make sure it's coming from the timeline. And it's at the beginning. At 0, the counter sets at 0. So go up to File, Export Media. And you'll notice the format, for the recommended format for this course is H.264. There's a drop down. Sometimes it'll default to a QuickTime. But if it does, to remedy that, click the drop down arrow and you'll see the different formats that's available. And so, as I stated before, sometimes it may have been QuickTime. If that been the case, if you notice it QuickTime and not H.264, click the drop down arrow, select H.264, and then the output name is in a light blue and it's showing you that's MP4, which is an MP4 file. From here, you can go with the match source, which is high bit rate, or you can come down to high quality 1080p HD. And for this particular video, we're going to go with that format, which is 1920 by 1080. Double click on the output name. And it goes, here's a pop-up, save as, we're going to call it test video. And where it's important that, make sure we spell that correctly with an O. So it's important where it's going. So it's going to the desktop. If you like, you can take it directly back to your SD card. So when you hit here, it gives you different options. But we know for certain that we're going to the desktop. So we're going to, and the format is confirming that it's MP4. Select save. The next step that is, you come down to sequence in and out, the source range, and select entire sequence. And from entire sequence to your right, select export. And then going through the process. Upon completion, it's going to default back to the timeline, or back to the interface. Whatever the length of your video, it's going to give you an estimated running time in terms of what it's going to take to complete the export process. Okay, so now the file has been exported. It went back to the interface to confirm that your file is on the desktop. Once it's finished processing, we see the beach ball still processing, but we're going to wait. Project been saved. We're going to minimize the Premiere. We're going to look on the desktop, and we'll notice at the top, test video, double click, which is MP4. And this is the video. For time, we're just going to scroll through the sound bites and conclude with the video. And that's the process of basic editing. So one other step. So if you want to create another sequence, another video within it using the same files, you come up to File, select New, scroll over, New Sequence. And it's important too, it's very important that you want to make sure that your video setting, your timeline is HDV 1080 because of the fact that you're shooting HD video. And these are the different formats based upon your source. But you want to make sure if you shot your footage originally in HD, you want to make sure the timeline is in sync with it. So we're going to give it a title if need be. Just for the sake of giving it a title, we just call it a test 2, and then we say OK. And then you notice we have a new timeline, so we can start a new video. I want to go back to the previous video that we edited. I just click on it. And so you notice we have one video sources to the left within the project, but I can create as many timelines if needed based upon the variation of video I want to edit. And that what we did was just a basic, the first video was a basic, we call it a VOSOT VO. Video, and then SOT, sound on tape, which we had 2 people speaking, and then we concluded with video. That's a VOSOT VO. To do a package, you would use this, you can use the same format, but you would include narration, which is the script that you produce, and you record that and place it on the timeline. But for today, the whole focus on basic fundamental editing utilizing Adobe Premiere.